I've been covering Myanmar for about 10 years, and over the years I've pointed out how it's the US-backed opposition, the supporters of Aung San Suu Kyi, who have this extremely racist and genocidal view of the Rohingya, how they have been actively trying to expel the Rohingya from Myanmar for many years now. Despite exposing this and also exposing the fact that the US also stirs up trouble amongst the Rohingya themselves to kind of fuel the conflict from both sides, I still get people who completely miss the point and continue to indulge in this divide and conquer strategy that the US is using against Myanmar. I get comments like this: I agree with most of your opinions except for the Rohingya. I don't believe the Rohingya are indigenous to Myanmar. I believe they were brought in by the British because the then Burmese would not work for the British. It's really up to the Myanmar government to determine citizenship status, in my opinion. The Rohingya should be taken in by the British since they are responsible for them being in Myanmar in the first place. So again, I don't agree with you about the Rohingya, but they don't belong in Myanmar and they should be kicked out, and the British should take them, which is just such a childish thing to say, and it kind of exposes how childish this entire line of thinking is. Sure, the British Empire did bring in other groups of people to Myanmar and to everywhere else they ruled over. This was one of their strategies. They also would take ethnic minorities in any particular region and give them a disproportionate role in administering it. And this was designed specifically to create animosity between these groups so that they were so focused on killing each other that they would never unite against the British Empire. This is what allowed a little tiny island nation to control vast swaths of the planet. And even in the 21st century, you have people that completely miss this strategy and continue to indulge in it, to feed into it. So that they think that the way that you break the back of the colonial legacy Myanmar still struggles with today is indulging in divide and conquer and targeting ethnic groups and fighting with them and trying to expel them from the country. This is what these groups were doing that allowed the British to colonize them in the first place. Of course, yes, some of these people were brought in by the British, but Rakhine State is right on the border with Bangladesh, and people have been crossing back and forth for generations, and long before the British ever showed up. So there are definitely Rohingya that have been there before colonization. And even if they were brought in during colonization, how long ago was that? So are you still going to obsess over that to this day, creating this sort of division within your society, inviting in foreign interference, instead of just accepting that this is part of your history? These people are now part of the fabric of your country. That's a question that these former colonies have to ask themselves. Malaysia, if you go to Malaysia, they have kind of the same problem, not as extreme as Myanmar, but they still struggle with this race and religious issue because the British did the same thing to them. Singapore was also part of the British Empire. They had the exact same problem. They had very violent and frequent race riots and tensions between different religions. But what did they do to solve that? Did they round up and expel all the Indians or Bengalis or Chinese or all these other groups that came to Singapore? No, they passed this law. And basically what it says is if you say anything bad about another race or religion, you go to jail for 3 years. And they solved the problem. If you go to Singapore today, it's almost impossible to imagine those streets filled with violent race riots. They focused on getting everyone to work together to move the country forward, and that's exactly what they did. So getting back to this comment here, if you think you're going to fight against a colonial legacy by indulging in the sort of behavior that got this country colonized in the first place, you're being unrealistic. And you're playing into modern day imperialism. You're not fighting against it. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing. It helps the channel grow, and it's free to do. And as always, thank you for watching.